She's got to unmute us.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I saw it, yeah.
Okay.
Some members of the EDC board may participate via telephone or video conference. A quorum may or may not be physically present in the city council chambers. Citizens wishing to make comments should email mparks@evermanTX.net. Citizens' comments received prior to the meeting adjourned will be read to the council. Meeting called to order. Approval of minutes from previous meeting, December 10, 2020, regular meeting. Take a motion.
Move to approve. Were those sent out? Okay, I didn't get them.
Second.
Right there to the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Consideration and possible action, discussion and consideration of motion to appoint EDC president. Let's open up a discussion.
Everybody throwing their hat in the ring?
Was there a
Well,
previous president or?
There was a previous president.
Yeah.
She stepped down.
You can talk right here. There's
Yeah.
okay.
Just to give everybody a little bit of background, you know, Denise was our president for so many years, and she has resigned from the board. The council accepted her resignation, and so we need to elect a new president. And actually, by our bylaws, we're supposed to re-elect officers every 2 years, something we haven't done. So regardless of what happens here tonight, every 2 years, we need to either elect or re-elect officers to serve as the president and vice president of the EDC. So that's what you're doing tonight. You're going to go ahead and select a president and a vice president tonight. So.
Well, I'd like to throw my hat in the ring for president, and a lot of the reason for that is because I'm here on a daily basis. I do meet with Nicoletti and Craig on a daily basis. So I'm in the loop, so to speak. There's a number of other reasons, but that would be the main ones. I know from what we've been told, most cities, the mayor is the chair of the EDC. So I wasn't aware of that at the time, but I would like to be considered for the chair or the president of the EDC.
Are there any specific duties that the president has or?
Basically runs the meetings, probably work with Nicoletti to set the agendas. What are my responsibilities?
That's
What would be
primarily
the
the
responsibility?
responsibilities.
Okay. Similar to the mayor's responsibilities, so.
Can I have anybody else comment?
I'll make a motion to elect him.
And the vice president is same?
The
Well, you
vice
do it-
president
we'll do it one
feels,
at a time. Right now,
Okay.
you do president. And then
Okay.
we'll do vice.
I'm not opposed to you being president.
Same here.
okay, we've got a motion,
We need a second.
got to have a second.
I second the motion.
Okay.
Got it? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carried.
I would make a comment.
Okay.
I think that's a good choice. I'm happy with that. No problem. I just wish we had enough more people interested in serving and doing that we had more people to draw from. It was still, that's a good choice. I don't mean that. Just, this is the fresh blood. Haven't had any since, I don't know when on this. Just wish we could draw in more people to get involved.
We're working on that. Craig is really working on that to get more people in, so.
Yeah, we've just about got all our boards filled and we've got one more. I apologize. one more position here, and I've got a few BOA positions and a recent events board position. So we've got some fillings to try to fill here. If you know anybody, we're looking. We got a spot for them. I promise.
I would have.
And if you want to fill in more than one place, let me know.
Could you possibly put it on the website? Is it on the website?
Yes, yeah, it is. And I think we're probably going to put it out on Facebook again.
Yeah, I think Mindy published a few months ago for the planning and zoning. That's how I started out.
Mhm.
And yeah. I keep up with the website every now and then.
Okay, so now I'm running.
Yeah, if Johnny wants to read that one.
Oh, you ready? Discussion and consideration of motion to appoint EDC Vice President. I'd like to remain as Vice President.
Now, Richard, this is the vice president steps up. If I'm not present, then
Okay.
she would take on the duties.
Okay.
So that's where that comes in. So anybody else? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion. She's thrown her hat in the ring.
I second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried.
Ray, let me apologize. That was actually you that should have read that.
Okay.
I already forgot you got elected, sorry.
Okay.
That was when you get old.
Yeah, I take over now. Okay, so item C, discussion and consideration of motion to allow the city of Everman to use EDC owned lots at 306 South Race, Block 1, Lot 6R, 310 South Race, Block 1, Lot 8R, and 312 South Race, Block 1, Lot 9 for mobile vehicle food court.
So what this is you all may remember the EDC went out and bought 14 lots on Race Street here. And we market them consistently. We haven't had any hits yet, which is kind of strange because we're trying to give away lots for people to put developments on. But regardless, we do have 4 lots that sit in between apartment buildings, which would be very hard for us to market for any business that would like to exist between apartment buildings. So the city manager has a conceptual idea of putting a mobile food vendor park in that 4-lot area. If you're familiar with some of these mobile food vendor designated areas in bigger cities or other cities our size even, they're pretty successful, and they bring a lot of traffic to the area, which is certainly something everyone's always interested in, is bringing in traffic so that we can get them to shop here and spend money here and do things in our city. So with that in mind, the city manager, Craig Spencer, would like to do a presentation and show you what kind of ideas we're talking about.
So I've placed a map in front of everybody to kind of show you the area that we're talking about. It's directly across the street from the entrance to the Pittman Park parking lot where the pavilions are. And the way all this started is we have some mobile food truck vendors that have a desire to come into Everman right now. The way that our ordinances are structured and the codes are structured is they're not allowed in the city as it currently stands. So as we began talking about this with city council, we discussed wanting to allow mobile food trucks to come in and serve Everman, but in a controlled capacity, not so much where they're driving all up and down the streets and serving the residents. And that was the feedback that I got back from city council. So that's where this idea came from, was to develop a mobile food truck vendor park that would allow a designated spot within the city of Everman to allow mobile food trucks to come in and serve. And we found that this area, like Mike was saying, to be the most sufficient. It's not highly desired area for a permanent brick and mortar style business. Not only is it situated directly between 2 apartment buildings, but it also happens to be in the direct floodway, which means for somebody to come in and develop that property, they would have to beef up the foundation to meet the flood criteria, which is a significant cost to anybody who's going to build any kind of structure there. So we just found this location to be a good location to try this out. This is kind of a venture for us. I know of at least 3 mobile food truck vendors that have expressed interest in wanting to come in. The other paper I placed in front of you is just some pictures of some other food truck vendor concepts, the mobile food truck park concepts, where we just highlight the area and improve it almost like a little park where we can allow vendors to come in and set up their food stands and allow residents to go and visit them. The way that this would be structured would be through an ordinance that we would present to city council or presenting to city council in April that would allow these food trucks to register with the city as a mobile food truck vendor. And that registration is good for 1 year. So if they choose not to renew their license, then we could bring in another food truck to access their license. We're going to cap the licenses, I believe, at 6. So we would have 6 spots available for mobile food truck vendors to come in and set up. The hope here is to offer a more variety of food options within the city of Everman, to attract more people to come visit our parks, to give some of our local businesses, because we do have a couple of local businesses that have food truck options that may want to set up an alternate location. And Pittman Park is our primary location for all of our events, our Celebrate America Festival and Easter events and things. So this would just be a food option while we have those events going on as well. So I think what all we're asking tonight is for the EDC's blessing to move forward. And what we would do is we would move forward with a rezoning of that property to community facility. We would take it before the P&Z and get their approval for the recommendation to rezone that property to community facility zoning. And then we would take it back to city council and ask city council to approve that rezoning and then approve that ordinance to start implementing the food truck park.
How will you select the vendors?
It's going to be first come, first serve. So they have to comply with all the same regulations that any other restaurant in the city would have to comply with. They would have to obtain a certificate of occupancy. They would have to show proof of a sales tax certificate and comptroller registration, food handlers permits, Tarrant County Public Health permits. They'll have to undergo a fire marshal inspection. They'll have to undergo a building official inspection to comply with all the safety standards. And then they get a certificate of occupancy and a registration that's good for 1 year.
Will you require them to be open all the time, every day, or just?
No, so
certain days, or-
the ordinance that's drafted that we're looking to present would actually restrict them to only being able to be open between the hours of 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. So they couldn't be open any later than 10 p.m. because of the proximity to the residential neighborhood right there. And they couldn't open any earlier than 7 a.m. Their hours would be completely up to them while they're operating in that food truck park. We would charge them the registration fee, the annual fee. Their hours and how they operate within that park on their designated spot is solely up to that business.
Have you determined the charge yet?
Not yet. We're still working. We're working with Texas Municipal Lawyers, which is the city's law firm that we contract with. We're working with their planning group, who is developing the recommendations on the charges for us right now. I should have those hopefully by next week, and that'll be presented to city council when we present the ordinance as well.
And they pay for a year, correct?
Yes, 1 year.
Okay, now, does the truck stay there the whole week, or how does that work? Okay, are they designated a spot?
Yes, they'll be designated a spot. So when they register as a vendor, they would have a designated spot that is theirs day in and day out. We haven't got to the point in working out the rules yet on whether they're going to be allowed to leave their vehicles there overnight or if they have to remove them. They do have to stay they cannot be stationary. The vehicles do have to be mobile. So they can't come in and all of a sudden the vehicle be on all 4 flats and set up on bricks. We're not going to allow that. But it would be up for discussion with city council when we get into the work session on, do we want to allow those vehicles to remain parked and secured overnight, or do we want those vehicles removed from the lot physically every single night? How do we want to go about setting that up? And we just haven't got to that stage yet.
And this is the lot that's before you get to the church, right?
It's actually the lot even before that. I think you may be thinking of the lot that's directly before the church. There's a lot directly across the street from this entrance where the splash pad is, directly across the street between 2 apartment buildings.
Oh.
It's actually 4 lots. So that makes it roughly 400 feet by 150 feet.
Okay, so you said this was gonna be daily or just the weekends?
Oh, it'd be daily.
Daily?
Do we have to pave it or anything? What are we gonna do for the surface?
Not necessarily. Again, this is still kind of a conceptual idea. Before we go forward on passing ordinances and drafting plans and getting engineers involved and so forth, our first step would be to come to you to see if this is an idea that you would like to bless for us to move forward with the rezoning and so forth, because EDC owns the property. So as long as you approve this concept idea, then we would come in and start talking about what our different options are as far as paving. I don't think we would want to pave it We might look to do gravel or something along those lines that would be appropriate there, just because of the cost and the maintenance and things with paving that lot. But
Now,
we'll have to assess those
oh,
costs.
on here, they have like the benches and stuff. Do they bring their own, would they have benches where you could sit? And
Those would be items that would be supplied by the city. Those would have to be our benches and things that are out there. The only thing that the food truck vendors are allowed to provide are going to be what's on their food truck. We're going to provide, just like we do in the parks, we're going to have to provide the picnic benches. We'll have to provide the trash cans that are available outside and so forth. So our parks guys would have to maintain those just like they do the rest of the park.
I do have a few things to add in regards to this, just because I started out in a food truck park like this about 11, 12 years ago. And I saw a lot of great things. I learned a lot, but I also learned a lot. And I saw that a lot of people did, for example, there was an expose and news report done by, I think, NBC or something like that on the food truck park in Fort Worth, the one that's by the Coyote Drive-In, or was. They found out that some folks that were leaving their truck there overnight, they would sleep in there and shower, right? And there was a whole, like, during the night, the camera crew went and everything. And then a few months after that, obviously the food truck got shut down.
Yeah.
And so I believe that a big part of this is, focusing on the health department, right? If somebody can have a successful inspection, right, and somebody can follow the rules, right, as they're set by the Tarrant County Public Health Department, I think that it shows that they're a competent business that, can execute well, right? So that in itself is going to be a big indicator, right? And in regards, like you were saying earlier, in regards to moving the truck every night, something that the Fort Worth and the Tarrant County Public Department, something that they need is for you to have a commissary, right? They need food trucks to have somewhere where they can, every night, they have to go and pretty much, because most food trucks, they either shut them off at night or, empty out their refrigerators. And because in that refrigerator, you can't have a lot, right? You need to have a space where you store your food, where you prepare your food and all of that. So they do require a place where you go, you empty your wastewater, you fill up on your water, you pretty much stock up. Right. So them having a commissary, and it could be, I was at the restaurant. We were a commissary for a food truck a few years ago, but it did get messy because sometimes they would show up at midnight and we would be gone. So there are, like I said, there are a few things that I think we just would have to have somebody to make sure that they're doing things right, specifically in regards to the sales tax, right? Because we don't want somebody to be, because food trucks typically have different locations. They can get the sales tax permit with, Fort Worth, Irving, and all over the place. And when they file those taxes, we want to make sure that the sales that they made in Everman, the tax goes to Everman, because obviously that's a big benefit that we get from that. But I'm very close with the inspector from the health department, and I've known her for years, and she's a straight shooter, right? She's somebody that will make sure that they're doing things right. So I think in that aspect, it's a great idea to bring in people, because in my experience, how food truck parks work, it's kind of like the reason where you never see just a restaurant by itself. Really, but you do rarely see a restaurant. But typically, you see restaurants like clustered together, because people go, okay, I'm hungry. Let me go here. I want to eat something there. We want them to kind of have that same aspect in regards to not only the eating, but also just having just a family evening. Let's go to the park, right? Oh, and we haven't ate dinner. You know what? There's food trucks there, right? That's what I'm feeling, that's kind of like what we're shooting for. Is that right?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that, I think that it can be a positive, in that aspect, right? To bring in just, different crowds, people that wouldn't typically come, because we're in the middle of 4 big cities. So, it's a 15-minute drive from anywhere really. So I think people would, make the drive if they know that, a certain food truck that they like is here or whatever. Does anybody else have any
Thank
input? I feel like I'm just talking.
Per se, at least in the given audience, so especially if this moves forward, I know that code compliance myself, I'd love to sit down and speak with you and be introduced to those health department inspectors, because that's gonna kind of fall back on code and myself to be doing these spot inspections. And to add to what you're saying, there's pluses and minuses of being in a small city, and this is one of those pluses, because we do have a little more oversight, because we don't have a million different irons of the fire for only a few different inspectors and marshals to go and assess and make sure that they're doing it by the book.
Yeah.
So we do have opportunities to be a little more close, full, watchful eye to set the tone for this, to make sure that they are following the way we want it to be ran, and professional and clean and healthy and all that.
Right, because back when we were working off of the trailer, how they did it is that we went to the first few years, we would go to the health department, right down in Rosedale with our trucks, but it was empty, right? I didn't have any food, and when the refrigerators were on, but that's pretty much it. And I mean, nowadays, the inspector pops in whenever she wants, which is the point. You want to kind of, catch them in the act, like how they truly work in regards to like, oh, we're planning for this. Once every 6 months, we're going to, clean everything up and pretend that this is how we do things. When in reality, so like you said, if these food trucks know that, oh, hey, he might pop in anytime. Okay, well, let's do things right.
They're going to be more compliant.
Exactly. And that's just my main concern. We don't want to roach coach, to just come. That's what they used to be called back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Let me put your mind at ease. A lot of your concerns that you just talked about, we've already been having those conversations.
Awesome.
And
Great.
you've almost mirrored what we have discussed about this taking place. So you're along the same lines of what our concerns have been.
Yeah,
So-
council has expressed a lot of the same concerns and health and safety and so forth. So we're going to make sure that there's stringent enough requirements and that we have a firm enough hand on it that we can make sure it's safe.
Okay.
But also offer those businesses an opportunity in a way that's going to benefit both the business and the city as well.
Right.
I'd like for Richard to be available, with his knowledge of it. If we have any questions, he might be the guy to call.
Yeah. I mean, I've done it a while, so we kind of we know how it works, and it's as simple as it comes down to just your equipment, the temperatures, and all of that. I mean, and it's having the managers on site and all of that, and it takes organization, right? That's all it is. I mean, to this day I have no idea how to cook, right? But I'm organized, so that's why it works. Now, in regards to are we? Because I have a concept that I wanted to start, right? It's kind of like an ice cream concept, right? Now, are these spots? Let's say that somebody, because they're limited to 7, right? To 6, sorry. I don't know why I said
You're trying to
7.
squeeze an extra one.
Right. Let's say that somebody buys their spot, right? And for whatever reason, a month or 2 in, they don't show up again. Can somebody else buy in to be in that spot, or how would that work? What's that?
Like a sublease.
Oh, so it would be a lease whenever like
Well, I'm
leases.
just saying the concept of sublease where you own your property and.
Well,
Yeah,
the thing
no.
is, you register, right? You
Yeah,
register
so
for the year.
they
So
would
if
have-
if they break their registration, right? So they don't fulfill the year.
Yeah.
They leave because, it didn't go well, 2 months, I'm not making any money, and they leave. Can somebody else come and register in that spot?
Yeah, I don't see any reason why we couldn't.
We actually talked
I mean,
about that a little bit today.
Yeah,
We're gonna
have a waiting list.
We're gonna
And,
Right.
maintain a
that's
waiting-
been asked,
we're
is
gonna
it
maintain a
the
waiting
first
list.
come,
Okay.
first
That is
served?
the first
Correct.
come, first served.
And
If
we'll
anybody
just
comes
go
in
down
with
the
no-
line.
And that's typically how it works in big cities. I mean, New York has a waiting list of 3,000 trucks, right? So I mean, that's how
Yeah.
typically it works. You
Yeah.
get in
You
line.
get in line, and then when they.
Right. Okay.
Like
Do
you might be
we-
on that list somewhere.
Do we have to get a release from that individual since they've leased it for the year?
I'm sorry, say that
Do
again.
we need to have some type of release they sign or something?
That'll be on the contract agreement that they sign when they get the paperwork.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to get into a court battle because we leased out somebody else and this guy comes back, so I paid for it for the year.
No, they would have to give up or violate a part of the agreement. So if they're a no-show for a certain amount of time, whatever amount of time we designate, if they give us written notice that they're backing out, that's non-refundable. The fee that they pay for their permit is non-refundable. But if they choose to back out or elect to, if they're not doing very well or whatever, and they decide to go to another location, that's fine. They can do that, but that opens that spot
Okay.
that we can.
Like I said, I just want to make sure we do it legally.
Yeah,
and
permit that out.
we don't have any
another vendor.
repercussions
Right.
from giving it to a second party.
And so are we allowing a variety of the food trucks, or are we allowing, let's say, 3 taco food trucks come in? It's okay. So we're not really going to have.
We have to be very careful about what we say and what we put limits on as far as variety, because we cannot discriminate based on business style.
Mhm.
So
It concerns me that we could have 6 taco trucks there and they're competing against each other. That's
it
not
could
doing
be,
anybody
but in my
any
mind, I would think as a business owner, you wouldn't want to compete with 6 other taco trucks
Yeah.
in a 100
It's
foot
kind of like,
section. So if they choose to do that, that's a
Yeah.
really poor business model, and none of them are going to be very successful, I'm
Right.
afraid.
Got it.
and I mean, in my experience, there's plenty of customers, right? I mean, like when for us, a lot of people when we first opened, they said, "Oh, a taco shop is opening across town. What are you gonna do?" I'm like, you know what? We have our customers. They're gonna have theirs. Sure, might we feel it a bit? Yeah, but if we do our job right and take care of our customer, they'll come back. I mean, there's how many taco shops? There's 4 right now in Everman. Right? There's one 200 feet from us, right? And we both still operate. But like you said, if somebody has a taco shop and then they open up there, like, wait, might not make sense. Might go somewhere else.
Which just with our population, everyone's 50% Hispanic, and that's a tendency. What pops up,
Right.
is Mexican food.
Yeah, and I mean, it's
I want to be fair to these people too. I want them coming in, and they set up, and they're competing with 5 other taco shops. That's not fair to them.
How have y'all advertised?
We haven't.
No.
This is
This is
still just a conceptual idea. So if you guys give the go ahead, then I'm gonna move forward with presenting ordinances and the plan on the logistics on how we would operate, and then put forth what the cost would be to essentially mock up the park as far as purchasing picnic tables and gravel and make sure that we're compliant with everything. And then we would market it and put it out there for mobile food.
I would just like to see us, if we have 3 already, number 4 comes in, then we let them know what type of shop setups are going to be there, and give them that option, still back out if they want to, like number 6.
Yeah.
If he doesn't want to compete with 3 other
Mhm.
taco or trucks that are selling the same type of food, then he can walk away from it before he pays his money. So I would like for us to be fair on that and just make sure they know what's going
What's
in.
going on, or who's coming in
Yeah.
already, or who's got.
We can do that. We can make it, put a section on the website so they can see what food vendors are there and what spots, and keep that updated. We can make that happen.
In my experience, there have because this is my second food business, and my first one we did a deli, and then we were in a strip mall, and they did tell us we tried to do donuts before, believe it or not, but there was already a donut shop within that same vicinity, not even the same strip mall, right? Different owners and everything, but they said, "Oh, we won't do it because of some city ordinance." So there is something that can be set up that I'm sure would be legal. But I think, like you said, this is kind of like, we're trying something out. At first, we might kind of leave it up to them to see, okay, this is who's already registered. This is who you're going to be competing with. But at the same time, just because they bought the registration doesn't mean they're going to show up every day. Right.
Any other discussion?
I would move that we support the concept of the food trailers. As things go, and we'll have time to act on it later on some of the aspects of it, but I think supporting it and moving ahead with it would be in order.
What do you say, Mike?
I was just going to ask, when y'all make your motion, if you can make it to allow the city to use the 4 lots that the EDC owns for this concept, and to let them proceed with the rezoning for the P&Z accordingly.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, we got this here with the lots on it. And what else do you need on there?
the rezoning with the P and Z.
See, she's got it down. She can make the motion right now. She's
I
got
didn't
it.
write anything down, sorry.
Oh, why does it have to be rezoned?
It's currently zoned as commercial.
Here, do you want to
Right.
make a
And
motion?
originally, when
That's
we were
got the
talking with the
lots on
city planner, originally we talked about just passing an ordinance and saying this was going to be the designated spot for food trucks. She pointed out in our meeting today when we were meeting with her that it's a good idea to go ahead and rezone this property to community facility. Because what we don't want is we don't want other property owners who are zoned C1 to come in and say, well, the city is using a C1 zone lot for food trucks. Why can't we? And then it kind of creates an opportunity for them to get a loop around. So she's recommending we change this to community facility because we also do allow variances for other CF properties currently, like the school district when they bring in In-N-Out Burger and their mobile food trucks. And those are already zone CF. So this would comply and keep everything essentially in one line and compliant all the way across the board. So that was just her recommendation.
Now, will they be facing the park or have y'all decided?
Yeah, the way I'm envisioning is it would almost have to be like a horseshoe shape so you can get the vehicles in and out.
Okay.
With entering in and then horseshoe shaped with everything facing out towards the road in the park. We'll have to look and see about potential fencing and stuff for sound barriers. We'll just have to take a look and see what all is going to be required out there. But before I went to any extent of designing and drafting things up, I wanted to make sure the concept idea was a go before we put too much effort into designing it all.
Are you ready to make a motion?
Yeah, I'm ready. I make a motion to allow the city of Everman to use EDC owned lots at 306 South Race Block 1 Lot 6R, 310 South Race Block 1 Lot 8R, and 312 South Race Block 1 Lot 9 for mobile vehicle food court, as well as the rezoning of the property by the Planning and Zoning Committee.
I'll second.
That good?
Sure.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Was that worded correctly, Mr. Mike?
Would you poll the council?
All
Or
in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And I'm sure Craig would be happy to come back and show you what the final plan is once the council and everybody approves that, so that y'all know what's going on and what goes in there and so on and so forth. Keep us all abreast since it is EDC property. I'm sure y'all would like to know that. So.
Absolutely.
all right. Well, that being said, we are adjourned.
You too. Thank you. Appreciate it.